Hey, what's up, everybody? I want to welcome you to another episode of the Dreamerspro Daily Recap, where we give you a recap of all of the hot topics that we covered that day. You can catch them in their long format and also catch it fully streaming for free on Apple Podcasts. So as you guys know, yesterday was a day big sports media channels, platforms, networks, whatever, were reacting to the Game 7 that took place in Denver between the Denver Nuggets and the Minnesota Timberwolves. I, like many people, thought that the Denver Nuggets were going to be able to close out the Minnesota Timberwolves in that game, but looks like we were all wrong, right? They shocked us, and they shocked a lot of people. So what happened? After the game, usually they speak to the coaches and the players, so they were speaking to head coach Mike Malone. And as they were asking him questions, in this case, a reporter, you could tell he was very, very upset. He was basically saying these are dumb questions and stupid ass questions and blah, 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 blah. So essentially, that was the soundbite that they were reacting to on ESPN First Take yesterday. Now, who was on the panel? Shannon Sharpe, Tim Legler, Stephen A. Smith, and Molly Karam. So first, Stephen A. Smith gave his take. He absolutely didn't like the way Michael Malone responded to what the reporter had to say. And then ultimately it moved down the line to where Shannon Sharpe had to, give his 2 cents. So as I'm sitting there listening to him, I'm interested. I'm eager to hear what he has to say. And then Shannon Sharpe basically goes off into this rant about what Mike Malone said about the Lakers last year, and he shouldn't have been talking. And I'm sitting there, I'm listening to this. I'm like, what does this have to do with LeBron James and the Lakers? We're talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, and you talking about what Mike Malone had to say with the Lakers. Like, what did the Lakers got to do with any of this? So what we want to do now is want to play exactly what Shannon Sharpe had to say yesterday on ESPN First Take, and then we're going to come back and react to his comments. Take a listen to what Shannon had to say here.
Yeah, Mike Malone's going to have to learn. You have to handle disappointment and prosperity the exact same way. Now, Stephen A., you remember last year and all during the season when he was keying, he thought it was cute to keep taking shots at the Lakers. Every time he turned around, he played the Lakers, he keying in people's face. Now look at him. Now the reporter asked him, what can you express your emotions being up 20 on your home court and losing? And now the season's over. The season's over. Dumbass question. Oh, no. I want you with your chest out. Like you was poking fun last year when everybody's talking about the Lakers. Oh, they still talking about that? We're the champs. You see, you have to handle disappointment and prosperity the same way. Nobody likes to lose, especially legs when you get to this level, but it's a part of it. When you accept victory, when you accept the things that come along with that, you must handle with grace and dignity disappointment. And I thought he handled it totally wrong. He was wrong, and he should apologize to the reporter. I understand when emotions are high, logic is low. But Mike Malone, you was out of line on this one. You lost. You had the 3-time MVP. You're up 20 on your home court, and the Nuggets outscored you 60-37 in the second half, and they held you to 14 points in the third. No, you can't handle it like this, Mike Malone. I'm totally disappointed with how he handled the post game.
So you heard what Shannon Sharpe had to say. Let me tell you what's interesting about Shannon's rant. After the Minnesota Timberwolves beat the Denver Nuggets in Game 7, we went live on our channel. We went live to react to the game. And to my surprise, there were actually a lot of people super chatting it on that live. I'm like, okay, a lot of people got a lot to say. But as soon as the live started, one of our reoccurring viewers, I don't remember the viewer's name, he immediately started sending a super chat saying, Nikola Jokic is a fake MVP. He should have never been the MVP. He totally choked. And then the next one came. The Denver Nuggets were just a bunch of frauds. Basically along that kind of line of thing. And I'm like, he says that. And eventually I say to the guy, I said, you sound like a LeBron fan right now. Why did I bring that up? Because I think that LeBron fans are used to being like, they've seen it happen for years where LeBron loses in these big moments, people flame him and roast him up. So whenever another player loses, they're like, well, what about him? What about him? He lost. What about him? He lost. But talk about him. Talk about him. Talk about him. So I believe that's where Shannon was coming from. Because if we're talking about the Minnesota Timberwolves and the Denver Nuggets, what do the Lakers have to do with any? What does what Mike Malone had to say last year about the Lakers have anything to do with the comments that he made in the press conference? He didn't say anything that was correlated to what he said about the Lakers last year whatsoever. The reporter asked him, what do you think about the being up 20 and losing? He's like, I don't care about the 20 points. I care about losing. What a dumb question. Like, what in there had anything to do with what he said about the Lakers? To me, it sounded like Shannon was a little bit bitter. And Laker fans really wanted the Nuggets to look like you. I knew that. Oh my goodness, I knew Laker fans, y'all were celebrating when the Nuggets lost. Just keep it funky with me. I know y'all was celebrating. I know y'all was happy as hell. Like, yes, they lost. Yes, they lost. They couldn't stand it. And I understand. Listen, I understand you're playing against a team that's had that much. I mean, in the last 8 playoff games you've played them, you've managed to, no. In the last, Denver's won 8 out of the last 9 playoff games they played against the Lakers. So if I'm Laker fans, I wouldn't be happy as well. I wouldn't want to see them do well as well, right? So I understand that. But I think that's where Shannon's comments were coming. It had nothing to do with now, listen, after Nikola Jokic lost the MVP, lost that game, some people are talking about he's a fake MVP, he shouldn't have been MVP. So what? Who's the alternative? What's the alternative? Okay, Nikola Jokic is a fake MVP. He shouldn't have been there. So who should have been it? Who? SGA, he lost too. So what's next? I think we need to chill with that. Oh, he should have been the fake MVP. If the guy put in the season and he won the award, let's leave it and move on. Let's move on to something else. Let's not try to take that award away from him. And the minute he lose, he ain't deserve it. Come on, because if that's the case, we can go back and look at so many other players that won regular season MVPs that didn't win championships, so that we got to take away their awards too. Come on, that's crazy. As you guys know, Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan have gone through a pretty messy fallout. And I would say the majority of it has come from Scottie Pippen's side. As you guys remember, back in 2020, they released the Last Dance docuseries. All of us are glued to our TVs and computers to watch it. And it was unprecedented. It's the best performing docuseries in the history of ESPN as a network. Did very, very well, right? Very, very well. But in the midst of all of that success came drama. And one player in particular felt like he was totally disrespected. And that player, of course, was Scottie Pippen. So what happened? After they released all the episodes, Scottie Pippen went on the Dan Patrick Show. And during his visit on the Dan Patrick Show, that's when Scottie Pippen's first salvo at Michael Jordan, at Phil Jackson, just started. Because at that point, he just started going off on Jordan and Scottie Pippen, and Phil Jackson, to the point where he even called him a racist. And that's what really kicked off the series of public attacks that Scottie Pippen made over those years against Michael Jordan. So we want to play that again, because that was the initial start. That was a linchpin of all of this, number one. And number two, the reason we want to play this because the comments that we're going to get into today have a lot to do with what was said on the Dan Patrick Show. So what we want to do right now is we want to play exactly what Scottie Pippen initially said, and then we're going to get into this article of what Tony Kukoc had to say about the Michael Jordan Scottie Pippen fallout. Take a listen to that there.
Help me understand the GQ article where you talked about the 1994 playoff game when you refused to go back in the game and Phil set up the play for Tony Kukoc.
Well, it's not much to be said. If you go back and look at when Scottie Pippen entered the Bulls and when Tony Kukoc entered the Bulls, and who deserved the last shot of the game.
No. I understand that, Scottie. I'm just going by what you said. You said you need to read between the fine lines, and then you go on to say it was a racial move to give him, Tony Kukoc, a rise.
So, if you knew that Scottie Pippen had been with the Bulls from 87, battled through the Pistons, and every other team that we had to get to those 3 championships, wouldn't you give Scottie Pippen one opportunity to get a last-second shot without Michael Jordan? Like 1 year without Michael Jordan. Can I get one shot? Like, I'm doing all the dirty work.
But all of that I understand from the basketball standpoint. But when you say a racial move,
well, why would Tony, who was a rookie, get the last-second shot and you put me out of bounds? That's what I mean, racial. Like, that was Scottie Pippen's team.
But
Scottie
Phil
Pippen
then
was
but,
on pace to be an MVP that year, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, why would you put him in a position not to be successful? Why wouldn't you put him in a position to succeed? Michael Jordan is not there. So who's next in line for you?
But have you talked to Phil about this? Because by saying a racial move, then you're calling Phil a racist.
I don't got a problem with that.
Do you think Phil was or is?
Oh, yeah. I mean, do you remember Phil Jackson left the Lakers, wrote a book on Kobe Bryant, and then came back and coached him? I mean, who would do that? You name someone in professional sports that would do that, you know? I think he tried to expose Kobe in a way that he shouldn't have. You're the head coach, and you're the guy that sits in the locker room and tells the players, this is a circle, and everything stays within the circle because that's what team is about. But you as the head coach, open it up, and now you go out and you try to belittle, at that time, probably one of the greatest players in the game.
Well, it feels like he's disloyal. I don't know if that makes him a racist.
Well, that's your way of putting it out, and I have my way. I was in the locker room with him. I was in practices with him. You're looking for him afar.
Yeah, and look, that's why I wanted to have you on. But I go back, and Phil designed a play for Steve Kerr when Mike was there. And Mike didn't have a problem with that, did he?
I don't understand. You're not setting me up to answer the right question. What do you mean Phil set up a play for Steve Kerr? He didn't set that play for Steve Kerr. He set that play for Michael Jordan.
I thought in the huddle, Mike says, I'm going to throw you the ball. You'll be open at the foul line. And Phil had nothing to do with that?
And you don't want to get this show started because it'll take us a long time. Do you know all those cameras that's sitting in that huddle who they was working for?
The NBA.
So you know who Michael was speaking to when he said that, right? That was planned. That was speaking to the camera. That wasn't speaking out of what we're going to have to do, what the play is going to be. That was speaking to the camera. Had John Stockton not came down, trust me. But that was building his own documentary because he knew he was controlling the cameras.
So let me get into this article here. I actually saw it on fadeawayworld.net. And it starts off with the headline, Tony Kukoc on Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen's relationship. It continues on, Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen form one of the greatest duos in NBA history, but all is certainly not well between them now. Pippen has taken quite a few public shots at Jordan in recent years, and their former teammate Tony Kukoc spoke out about their relationship during an interview with Sports Club. 3 years ago, he worked with the Bulls. He came at a few games, Kukoc said. I don't want to go deep into what happened. Media working that way. I didn't see him for a long time. I'm sorry because of the problems in the relationship between him and Michael. With Michael, I'm talking about, he still loves Pippen, respects him, and always mentions him as someone without whom he would never have any huge success like he did it. It's sad. It's tough for me to see him, Pippen, in this condition, Kukoc continued. He changes his opinion from time to time on Michael, LeBron, and other people. He called Phil Jackson a racist because he gave me a shot, a clutch shot. It's not something. I don't know. This is not the Scottie from our team when he played. He didn't have any problems to pass the ball. I always say Michael Jordan is the best and Michael Jordan is the greatest of all time, but if you play good and you know how to play basketball, then Scottie is the best teammate that you can ever have, Kukoc concluded. Have you noticed something? there have been two reactions to Scottie Pippen, or maybe one. People are all surprised. In some cases, people are shocked. Charles Barkley, former teammates, everybody's surprised at how this thing got to where it got to. And it got really messy, especially if we get into the stuff about his his ex-wife and Michael Jordan's son, which was just some Jerry Springer type stuff, right? It got very, very messy. And a lot of us as sports fans were just left being totally confused. Why were we confused? Because when you saw these guys, when we watched them for all these years, even after their retirement, they always look so happy together. They always look so chummy, so friendly. So to see this come out really stunned a lot of us. Let me give you guys my position on this. My position is the following. I am 100% on Jordan's side for a few reasons. Number one, if you go back and look at the docuseries, Michael Jordan wasn't just showing the lowlights of his teammates. He was also including his shortcomings, not only as an NBA player, but also as a person, as a human being. So you have that aspect to it. So it wasn't like as if he was just highlighting the negatives of his former teammates and then just omitting himself from all of it. No, he included himself in all of it. Number one. Number two, if you listen to some of the things that Scottie Pippen has said after the docuseries came out, he's talking about things about when Michael Jordan, him and Jordan were teammates, which means that he has harbored some negative feelings about Jordan for decades, quite literally for decades. So if you felt this way about MJ, why did you even decide to participate in the docuseries at all? If you think someone is a jerk, why would you then jump at the first opportunity to make money with them, or the idea of making money with them, if you think they're a jerk? And usually what happens is people that stick around people for years that they quote unquote feel are bad or doing wrong, and they don't say anything, is because they're gaining something in that moment. And the minute they can stop gaining something, or the minute that person says no, or they don't want to buy you something, all of a sudden, this is the worst person in the world. This is the worst human being that ever existed. That's what it sounds like in this situation here. That's what it sounds like. Because, he surely was up there participating in that. The fact of the matter is the following. Scottie Pippen is one of the greatest players of all time, top 50 guy of all time. But the majority of the reason that we're still discussing Scottie Pippen is because what he's been saying about Michael Jordan. Those are the facts. Those are the facts. We recently heard about the No Bull tour. I was like, what? Going around and telling, what is going on? So to me, look, Tony Kukoc believes that Jordan still harbors positive feelings towards Scottie. I don't know that. Based on everything that I've heard and read, that is not true. But if that's what he feels, that's what he feels. And we just wanted to share the information with you guys. Let me get into this topic here. So this is a topic that just really came out of the blue, right? Really came out of the blue. And I don't know what prompted former NBA player, former ESPN analyst, Jalen Rose to say the following. Now, some of y'all are like, well, what are you talking about, Willis? Well, I was going through the internet and I came across an article that was highlighting some comments, or rather some tweets, comments, tweets, whatever you want to call them, that Jalen Rose published today, basically today, right? And in these tweets, he was essentially sending a warning message to American-born NBA players about what he feels the NBA will look like if they themselves don't start taking the NBA seriously and really trying to carry on the legacy that they're, the people that came before them, like the eras of the Kobe's and the Jordans and all of that, the Magic Johnson is all the way back, that to really continue to grow that legacy, that if they don't take care of it, the NBA is going to look a lot different. And different. And number two, they could be in a position where they could actually start losing those jobs. So those are the comments that he posted on his Twitter that sparked a lot of conversation. All right, let's get into these comments here. These tweets here. So let's go over the tweets first. First one he wrote, this is on May 20th, 10:32 p.m. He writes, "Dear U.S.-born basketball players, put in that work tirelessly and show discipline. Otherwise, NBA jobs are becoming extinct. He then put up another post responding to someone where he says, you clearly are a casual. Now, the person that he's responding to said the following: right, like all these NBA players from U.S. In the league, Tatum, Edwards, Halliburton, Brunson, Morant, and more from America. So those were the comments that he was responding. The comment he was responding to. Let me just read some of what people said after his initial comments. Their U.S.-born players. So one person said, "Man, what are you talking about?" Another person said, "That's the problem. American players care more about their brand, social media, video games, and going to the Met Gala than putting in the grind." I think he's talking about Ben Simmons there. Another person said, "This isn't just basketball. A certain group is being squeezed out of any field or subgroup once dominated with either lookalikes or a different product altogether that we sometimes inadvertently help make look cool by association." Another person said, "Jay Rose did a whole podcast episode on this. The NBA has been trying to grow globally for years, even neglecting American youngsters in the process. So we got to get serious about our youth development." And then I'll read one more. Another person said, "Plus the NBA doesn't want foundational Black Americans being 90% of the league. Really, Black American players don't benefit from more foreign players," right? And then some people started to take it further. Other people responded. So let me give you guys my take. Let's address this one by Anthony Love. He said, "Plus the NBA doesn't want foundational Black players being 90% of the league. Really, Black American players don't benefit from more foreign players." Let's address that first comment. And I'm thinking, how do I approach this topic? Okay, let me approach it this way. So I was going through a lot of my old Dick Gregory videos, right? If you don't know who Dick Gregory is, then you can search who he is. But he's a very, very important voice. Anyway, I was going through some of his videos because I used to watch a lot of his interviews because he's hilarious, but he'd be saying some real stuff. So I've watched, I can't even count hours and hours and hours. I've watched a lot. If there's 100% of his interviews and speeches on YouTube, I've seen probably at least 60 to 70% of them, or 80%. I've seen, and a lot of them multiple times. You know, I used to listen to Cornel West a lot as well, and many others, right? So when you listen to people like Dick Gregory and Cornel West, what you begin to understand, right? Apart from growing up in the States, you go through history, you study history, social studies, and all that. But what you begin to understand is that there is this deep, rich culture and heritage that exists within the United States that was cultivated by the Black Americans who were formerly slaves, whatever. And when you think about it, at least that's what I was thinking. Just, was it yesterday, the day before? I was just thinking, I'm like, man, these people are, what's the word I was thinking of? These people are not incredible, but there's something more than the word incredible. They were just, impressive, right? They're a very impressive group of people. Why? Because they come out of that situation, and then they now have to basically create a culture for themselves, which they don't have. Why? Because they were brought along as slaves. It wasn't like as if people from other countries that migrated to the United States with their own free will. So if you're Italian, French, whatever, so you kind of have a culture that you're coming with, right? That you could bequeath now down to generations after you. But in the case of the Black Americans, they had to now create their own culture. And they did that with music, food. Of course, you have religion and all of these different things. But then out of that struggle came leaders like Harry Belafonte, Dick Gregory, Martin Luther King, so many others. And I say that to go back to what this gentleman just wrote. If you listen to a lot of civil rights leaders, which I have, and I've read some of their books, what lies at the core, at the heart of their message is love and freedom alongside fairness. Love, freedom, fairness. I want a fair shot like everybody else. I want to experience the same love that everybody else has. And we have love for one another. And freedom, I don't want to be enslaved. I don't want to be oppressed. Those are the core precincts of their beliefs that now materialize into actions. And what gets me with comments like this is that this has nothing to do with the vision that the forefathers, iconic civil rights leaders, fought for. Absolutely nothing. What this has to do with is a personal fear that exists within you that you now want to project and start holding people back. And to me, what gets me, or rather what else really perplexes me and confounds me, is that you don't see the irony within your comments. You don't see the irony within your position. Because Martin Luther King and all of these wonderful leaders fought for the rights of blacks because they didn't want to be oppressed. They didn't want to be cast to the side. And then here you are. You come out of that movement, not you, some people like this, because a lot are not like this. And then you're like, okay, but we don't want that group. It's like, excuse me? You were the group that was marginalized. You then gain a foothold within the American empire to a certain extent, and then you turn into the person that says, well, we don't want the next group. What? What? Isn't the United States an amalgamation of just immigrants? Help me understand this. Is not the United States an amalgamation of immigrants? Now, some of them you can call them, they were called settlers. Some of them can say, no, you were not settlers, you were invaders, depending on who you're speaking to, if you're speaking to the Indians. But the United States is an amalgamation of immigrants from all over the world. All over the world. So to hear certain people talk about we're the foundation, it's like, brother, what are you discussing right now? What are you saying exactly? What are you saying? Go outside. Who do you see? You see everybody in the United States. You see Asian Americans, you see Latin Americans, you see Black Americans, you see German Americans, you see Jewish Americans, you see Italian Americans. Like, what the hell are you even discussing right now? Like, who are we joking with? Who are we joking with? That's why when Ann Coulter said those comments to Vivek, she was like, well, I can't vote. Like, what? So I'm trying to figure it out. So where do your people come from? Or is it that they must come from one particular, like, what exactly are you saying right now? The point I'm making is, I don't understand those comments. Let's get to Jalen Rose and address what he's talking about and not be distracted with this nonsense. Jalen Rose is talking about something serious in terms of the NBA. Let's get to it. Let's leave the BS out of it. What he's saying is he's seeing the direction that American-born players are going in, starting from a developmental youth level, about the AAU, things that Kobe Bryant, Robert Horry, all of these players abhor because they believe that they're not teaching players the fundamentals to be able to compete in a league that's ever evolving. They believe that those systems are actually hurting American players. That's number one. So he's speaking about it from a youth level, number one. Number two, if you go back to his comments and read it carefully, he said, work tirelessly, show discipline. What is he talking about? Well, if you look at the current crop of NBA players, it's all about the brands. It's all about the glitz. It's all about the glamour. It's all about the bag. Has nothing to do with the product and actually ensuring that the league that the Jordans, the Kobes, the LeBrons, and all of them built can remain vibrant. They don't care no more. And this is what happens. Ultimately, this was bound to happen. The NBA wants to increase his revenue and his reach and get more fans and become more popular around the world. Now, to go back to that person that said they don't want foundational Black American, like, this is the stupidity I'm talking about. We got to stop with the stupidity. We must stop with it. Who has the NBA been trying to market for the last 2 months? Is it not Anthony Edwards? Before that, who were they trying to market? Was it not John Morant? Before that, who were they trying to market? Was it not Zion Williamson? Who is the current face of the NBA? Is it not LeBron James? Who was the face before that? Was it not Kobe Bryant? Who else was the face? Was it not Larry Bird and Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and all? Like, what are we talking about? What are we talking? This type of conversation must be, we must eliminate this kind of stupidity. Why? Because it's not solving anything. It's just another reason to sit there and bitch and moan and do nothing. And the more you sit up there complaining the NBA is against you, what the hell are you talking? You know how many millionaires the NBA turned into? These players have turned into? Like, what are you talking about? And they work for it, by the way. But that kind of stupidity must stop. The NBA ain't against no damn black America. The NBA is for black America. Like, what are we talking about? So the NBA against LeBron James? Like, what the hell are we talking about? I just hate it because I don't go after certain groups. Oh, I don't go after that. I don't do that. Maybe how I'm raised. Maybe it's my experiences from living around the world. I don't view people like that. I judge you on an individual basis, and I don't have this fear of competition because you're competing anyway, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, you're competing. Whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not. And those that embrace it quick enough will be the ones that adapt quick enough. But if you don't embrace it and you sit there talking about, I don't want to, just us. Okay, keep believing that. Keep believing that. You see these all-star games? Do you see these all-star games? Are you being serious? Whose fault is that? Whose fault is it? So to me, look, he brings up a good point. I think it's a real point. We can see the evidence of it with these MVPs. The last 6 MVPs have all been foreign players. Between Giannis, Joel Embiid, and Nikola Jokic, those are 6 MVPs. 6 of them. Now you got Wemby coming through the door. You got him to deal with for the next God knows how many years. People are arguing he should have been the defensive player of the year. So look, I think Jalen Rose brings up some good points. I want to close by saying I don't agree with what that gentleman said. This is not what Martin Luther King and all these guys spoke about. This is not what he talked about. I never heard him talking about foundational black. He talked about people being together. That's what's his, I don't know what y'all are on. And I'm against any group, black, white, blue, green, purple, that's about excluding others or holding others at arm's length. If that's how you are, fantastic, my brother, you have the right to be who you want to be. You and I ain't gonna vibe, and this is just not the channel. I have a deep respect for black Americans. I do. I also have respect for my heritage as well. But what I don't respect is this people saying it's stupid. And by the way, that goes in other groups, because some of y'all, well, you know, I don't agree with that. That I almost cursed that stuff either. And I cut it off the minute I see it happening. I don't want to be a part of these conversations. But this stupidity got to stop. Number one. Number two, it's not solving a damn thing. All we're doing is just woofing and woofing